Alright fellas, welcome back! This is quite an exciting video, I'm guessing. Well, it is for me. I've been looking forward to getting in here and filming this video because as you know, we have been building the brewery for quite some time, but we can now test her. So basically we're going to do a run through of the kettle's holding water, checking that everything is watertight, and then we're going to be running the pumps and running the system as if we were doing a brew day. And then hopefully at the end of that process, once everything's in the boil pot, then we're going to create some steam. We're going to turn the elements on. I don't know if we'll get her up to a boil because I'm a bit short on time this afternoon, but I'm going to hopefully make some steam and get the hood on and see if the hood can deal with the steam. So we're going to be testing the hood out as well today. I've had a few bits arrive and I've done a few bits and bobs to it, which I'll run through in a second, but first of all I just want to talk about the Y strainers. Someone left me a message saying that they were a little bit concerned that the Y strainers wouldn't keep up with the demand and they'd keep getting blocked up, and they were asking how big they were. Well, I had the same sort of concerns, but I was wanting to go around this route of this duplex filtration system where you can change flow, and I've got everything now ready to construct it. That'll be in another video. But when I was looking at them, it was difficult to get an idea of the size of them. I was expecting them to be something, I mean this is an elbow, I know, but I was expecting them to be something like this in size. But they have arrived and they look beefier than I thought they would do. So let's chuck her on the keezer and we'll have a closer look. Let's have a look at her. So this is the Y strainer for anyone that's never seen one or don't know how it actually filters. The flow of liquid is following this arrow that's on the piece. So your flow's going up like this. So what the flow does of water, or in our case wort, it will travel up here inside the filter. Won't be able to go out this way because it's got a cap on the end. It's got the nut that is holding the washer in, and so it's now inside the filter, and there's only one way out, and that is to go through the filter itself and back out, which you can see there's the filter. And if I show you this side, will it pick it up? Maybe not, but we'll have a look. So basically it's, oh yeah, you can see, look, you can see the light through it. So it fills the filter from the inside and comes out this side. So when this blocks up, you switch the flow to the other Y strainer, pull out the screen, get it cleaned out in some sanitizer, and then pop it back in like so, and then tighten up the nut and you're ready to roll with it again should the other one block up. But there's the screen, so there's nothing going to pass through it that's obviously bigger than the screen itself. But yeah, I think as long as we get a good enough Whirlpool and the trub dam does some sort of a job, then I think they'll work. I'm hoping they're going to work, but like I say, because we're running two, it wouldn't really matter if I could if I have to keep switching them over, because I'm going to have two running on the duplex system. So that's the Y strainer. I've got two of them. So like I said, the pots are done now. Everything's nipped up on the elements. I think I mentioned that before. I've been playing around with the sight glass, and this sight glass came with two nylon washers, top and bottom, and it wasn't sealing, it was weeping. It didn't matter how much I tightened it up, it weeped. So what I've done is I tried, because I've got 2 spare cam locks, and I put the washers in there, lined up the glass with the rest of the setup, tightened it down, and I've done a quick test on that, and it is leak free now. So the silicone washers in there have worked. I have put a tap on the inlet, or the bottom feed of the Hermes coil. I didn't have this before on the other system because, as you know, we had a shelf there with the HLT up there, so when I was disconnecting from the Hermes, I just put a jug underneath and it just caught what was coming out of the Hermes coil. But someone did say, are you putting a tap on there? And I thought, well, yeah, of course, I've got to now. So I got another stainless steel 2-piece ball valve, so that is now on the Hermes coil. I have I PTFE taped everything, and I've set up the return out of the Hermes coil and up through the side glass and back into the mash tun. I've mounted the pumps where I want them. I'm not going to mount this, I don't think, because A, I've nowhere to mount it, and B, it's going to be a pain to get it mounted. So I think on brew day I'm just going to have it out with the filtration system straight on top of it, and then I can, when I've done, tip it upside down, flush it, back flush it, get it sanitized and ready to roll again. And Harry gave me these ages ago. These are just blanking caps, just to put over the wart side of the plate chiller, just to keep any bugs out, any nasties. I have also got the 3 ball valves which I ordered from Malt Miller. So one for each pump, like I mentioned in the last video, and one for the recirculation, or the Whirlpool fitting. So we can now fill up the boil pot without anything coming out of this port. And I think that about covers it. Oh yeah, I've ordered a new silicone hose, which I've managed to get cut in quite the neat fashion, where I haven't got long lengths of hose, because before I was having to get from the pump right up to the top of the Hermes coil, right up to the HLT, which was sat up on a shelf, so I had to have a long length of silicone hose to get me up there. And then when I was putting it into the boil pot, I'd just got a great long length of hose that was dangling, and it was a pain in the ass. So we don't have to do that anymore. Everything gets connected to the pots using the tri-clamp fittings, and there shouldn't be any more looping hoses over the top of the pot. That's my plan. So I've managed to get everything cut so it all works and fits, and we've got nice short lengths, keeps everything a bit tidier. And I'm going to drop the feed from up here for the water, which used to feed the HLT. I'm going to drop it down, run it along the back, and have it down here so that I can have water supply for the plate chiller, and then I can just link a hose up to the pump to get it into the HLT. Oh yes, HLT has got the markings on it. I spent some time last weekend, weighed out 2 litres of water with the scales, made sure that the measuring pot was accurate, and then I just filled the pot with increments of 2 litres, marked them off on the HLT and the boil pot. So that's it. That is it. So with all that said, we can now start the test process. Okay, the HLT is full. I can get about 30 litres in it before it starts coming out of the recirc. In fact, I could probably get 34. I think it was, no, 32. It's 32 before it starts making its way out of the recirc, but that'll be plenty. anyway. But everything is covered, the Hermes coil's covered, and we have no leaky anywhere. No leaks, so far so good. So we'll hook up the recirc for the HLT. The big problem I had last time was knowing which hose went to where, and I think I got it mixed up each and every time I did it. So on these two lengths of hose I have just written on water, so I know this is the water side, and I've got them water 2 and water 1. So water 1 goes onto the bottom entry or exit for the HLT and runs into the pump like so, and then the recirc for recirculating the HLT will obviously be using this pump as the water pump, and just connects to the recirc port up top. So I've not tried to keep everything super tight on the lengths, but it definitely makes it a lot neater than having great long lengths of hose everywhere. Right, we'll flick the panel on and everything is reading, which is good. So we're just going to start recirculating. So we'll open up the tap and flick on the water pump, and it's now recirculating. Voila! So obviously now, as you know or may not know, when the elements are on, the water is constantly being recycled back through the bottom to the top of the HLT, essentially mixing it together so that we don't get any hot spots or cold spots. We get more accurate reading of temperatures. For those that don't know, maybe people watching this that for the first time. So that's the recirc side of things. So we can assume then that we've been recirculating, the elements have been on, and we've hit our strike temp for the mash tun. All the grains will be in the mash tun. Of course, we're just doing a test, so she's empty. So now we're going to run off all of this water into the mash tun, because eventually I want to get it all into the boil pot, and that is the next step. So turn off the recirc, shut off the tap on the HLT and on the pump, and now run off the strike water using the recirc hose, and we're just going to put it into the bottom of the mash tun, open up the mash tun. So now we're no longer recirculating the HLT for the minute, we're just going to now get the water into the mash tun. So we'll open up the HLT, flick the water pump and open up the tap on the pump. Oh no, I'm using the wrong pump. You stupid bugger. We're still using the water pump, god damn it. So obviously when there's grain in there, I'll be running it in a lot slower than that. But we're just doing a run through on the hoses, setup, etc. And we wouldn't be running a full HLT's worth of water into here. But there she is. HLT's empty. I've moved everything over to the mash tun, and for all intents and purposes we have mashed in. Obviously this HLT will have more water in it, but we've just drained it completely, and so now the mash is underway. What I will do is shut off the mash tun, shut off the HLT, and just to be on the cautious safe side, shut off the pump, and then I can take this recirc hose and pop her back onto the HLT, because we're going to be, of course, recirculating the water that's left in there and topped up again, and recirculating to keep the HLT water at a constant temperature. And while that's doing that, then we hook up the other pump, the water pump. So again, we've got two lengths of hose. The shortest hose is obviously just running out of the mash tun and into the bottom of the wort pump, pump number 2, and then the other hose is going to be returning the mash back to the mash tun via the Herms coil, which is in the HLT, which goes on like that. And then we can open up the tap to the Herms, and now we'll see the sight glass in action. We'd open this again and be recirculating the water in there when we were doing a brew date, but we're done with that today. And then we'd open up the mash tun and make sure everything's open, which it is, and then we'd flick on the water pump, and that is now dragging the wort out the mash tun, through the pump, through the Herms and through the sight glass, which we can see filling up nicely and not leaking, which is brilliant. And of course returning it to the mash, and I'm going to have to get the mash manifold for the Ss BrewTech mash tun. Essentially that is now the mash recirculating. So again, it's coming out the bottom of the mash tun, through the wort pump, into the bottom of the Herms coil, which is going to be sat in water. It's running through that, coming out the top of the Herms and through the sight glass, so we can keep an eye on colour and clarity and everything, and back into the mash tun. So I'm going to shut off the pump for this demonstration, and I'm going to shut down all the taps. Make sure the tap's off to the mash tun, the tap is off to the Herms coil and on the pump, and then we are going to be taking the mash and we're going to be running it into the boil pot as well as sparging. So off with, whoa, need 2 hands or the GoPro. So off with the recirc from the mash and the Herms coil, and that goes into, oh, can't see, that goes into the boil pot like so. So now we're going to be running out of here through the wort pump and into the bottom of the boil pot, and at the same time as doing that, the runoff, we're going to be sparging. So I'm going to disconnect the recirc for the HLT, because we don't need to recirculate that water anymore. We're going to use that to sparge. Just take it off of there, drop it down onto the bottom of the Herms, and then open her up, and we're going to run sparge water through the water pump and clear out the mash tun of the sticky wort. It's going to run clear in here and sparge while we're running everything out the mash tun and into the boil pot. So we're not sparging today because we've nothing to sparge, so we just open up the mash tun, open up that is open, that is shut, and whoop. Fill her up. Right, the mash tun is empty, and because this is a bottom entry mash tun, it drains completely, which is fantastic, and we've now got everything into the boil pot. Now the only other hose switch up I can test now is the Whirlpool. So we take this hose, let's shut these off first, that's shut off. So we take this hose, we put that onto the Whirlpool fitting, and we'd take this hose and we'd put it onto the outlet of the boil pot. So now we're going to be running out the boil pot through the water pump and back into the Whirlpool, and let's see how the Whirlpool does. Okay, so open up the port for the Whirlpool, open up the boil pot, open up the pump and switch her on. I guess it's difficult to make out because it's water and there's nothing in there for it to whiz around, but it is obviously whirlpooling. We'll just have to see on a brew day how good of a whirlpool it's giving me. If I want to make it a stronger whirlpool, I can always piggyback it off the other pump, so I can run it through 2 pumps and make a more powerful whirlpool that way. But until we have a brew day, we don't know how well it's going to cone in the middle, I guess. But it's been engineered for the job, for the size of pot. The only thing that would let it down is the pump, if the pump isn't powerful enough. But it seems to be moving it alright. But it is difficult to make out a bit on the camera. So anyway, that had been a Whirlpool. It's now whirlpooling. And that'd be it. The only other thing we'd do then is get her down to temp by running her through the filter, through the plate chiller, back into the pot, and then obviously run her off once we're done into a fermenter. So that is the new system running. We've gone from HLT to mash tun to boil pot. There's no leaks anywhere. I've managed to do it by connecting all the hoses this time without getting in a mess, and everything is leak free. I haven't seen any leaks, so I think we're golden on that front. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on the elements and turn on the fan and see how we do with the extraction. And let's try an element. I can see something happening. Ripples in the water. Right, I'll get this somewhat steamy and then we'll come back and check the hood. We have some steam, and I'm running out of time for the day. We're at 56, 57 degrees, but we have enough steam coming off of there to give the hood a bit of a test. And well, the steam is not escaping at this temperature, but we'll see in a later video when we actually do like boil off rates, etc., to know what our volumes are going to be and what we need to put into Beersmith. But she's pretty steamy, and it is collecting it all, even at this smaller end of the hood. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Everything is going up the chimney, so to speak. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. A successful mini test, we'll say, for steam evacuation. So there we have it. I'm pretty pleased with how that's all turned out. The hoses have been working well in respects to moving everything around without having too much length, like I already mentioned in the video. No leaks, which is good. We have the sight glass which isn't leaking, which is fantastic, and achieved somewhat of a steam test, so I'm really pleased with that. The next video I think that's going to be going up is we're going to be building the duplex filter system. I'm going to put that together in the next video, and then it's going to just be a case of just working out dead space in HLT, how much the boil is going to boil off, etc., and then we can crack on with a brew. My goodness me, what else do I need? Oh yeah, before I do that I need to order a tea. God. There's more stuff. Right, I do need a tea going onto the inlet, the outlet for the plate chiller, so that I can have flow coming out but be able to screw in a temperature gauge so I can actually see what temperature the water is coming out at, and the manifold for the mash tun. But then that's it, I think. That's it. It's been a long time. That is it, fellas. So as always, don't forget the thumbs up if you want to do. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Click it if you want to what's coming up next. The video gonna have all to say. Until next time, I'm out of here.